Number 10. The megabat. The megabat is the largest species of bat on the entire planet. So, how big are they exactly? Mega big. This giant species of bat can grow to have a wingspan of over 5 feet. All the photos you've seen online of these massive bats hanging upside down looking like Count Dracula are 100% real. The bats are properly known as golden-crowned flying foxes, and they can be found creeping out people in the Philippines. It is the largest species of bat in the world, though its body only grows to be about a foot in length. Its body is relatively small when compared to the size of its colossal wings. But as soon as they stretch and open their wings up, it's over. Well, not really. This bat isn't going to suck your blood or turn you into a monster vampire. It primarily eats fruit and flower nectar. The megabat evolved from an even more frightening bat-like animal that lived over 31 million years ago. These huge bats have the incredible ability to sustain a heart rate of over 700 beats per minute. They have huge lungs that can help them to fly extremely well. And at the end of the day, they are actually pretty cute. These big bats almost look like adorable flying foxes, hence the name. Number 9. The Galapagos Godzilla. It turns out that Godzilla is kind of real. The closest thing we have on Earth to an actual Godzilla is the Galapagos marine iguana, which is completely unlike any iguana you've ever seen anywhere else on Earth. They don't shoot laser beams out of their mouths, and they won't stomp all over Hong Kong, but they are still frightening in their own right. These obscure creatures can only be found in the Galapagos Islands. They have evolved an incredible ability to forage for food underwater, and they all look like miniature Godzilla monsters. They're normal iguanas, but bigger, cooler, and they spend a significant amount of time under the water. They are excellent swimmers. Since marine iguanas are cold-blooded, their dark skin helps them to absorb lots of heat from the hot sun so they can dive deep into the cold ocean. They can't breathe underwater, but they are able to hold their breath for an impressive amount of time. These giant lizards crawl like goblins across the black lava rocks on the outskirts of the Galapagos Islands, foraging for yummy plants and feasting on small marine critters. They can grow to be about 5 feet long. That's a big lizard. But even though the marine iguanas are fascinating, Charles Darwin was not a big fan. Charles Darwin travelled to the Galapagos Islands to study his theory of evolution. In one of his diaries, Darwin wrote that the marine iguanas were disgusting, clumsy lizards and called them imps of darkness. How would you describe the Galapagos marine iguana? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 8. Giant underwater tube monster. Divers recently discovered a giant amorphous blob stretching through the ocean like a huge blue underwater snake. This giant and strange creature is unlike anything else on our planet. It was photographed by a videographer named Steve Hathaway off the coast of New Zealand. He had been searching for the mysterious snake-like blob for over 10 years and had never seen one up until then. The creature was about 26 feet in length and floated through the water like an extra large shoelace. It's known as a pyrosome, and it's actually a colony of small sea creatures linked together to form a giant mass of floating life. There isn't much to know about these strange giants. They are sometimes bioluminescent. Scientists have referred to them as unicorns of the sea, and they were originally spotted by sailors in the 1800s who thought they were glowing monsters slithering under their boats. Pyrosomes also range in size. According to Lindsay Sala from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography in California, these collections of sea critters can grow to be over 60 feet long, nearly triple the size of the creature captured on video by Steve Hathaway. Number 7. The Giant Anteater. Giant anteaters are some of the coolest animals in the world. They are also some of the strangest and most misunderstood. According to the Smithsonian National Zoo, a giant anteater has a tongue that is 2 feet long. That's like from your knee to your foot. All tongue! It's also able to flick its giant tongue in and out of its mouth up to 150 times every minute. And that's not all. The giant anteater's tongue is coated in a special type of sticky saliva that makes it easy for slurping up ants and termites. In the wild, they try to eat up to 30,000 per day. They also like honey and fruit juice. Of course, with such a big nose, the sense of smell is very important to all anteaters. This is how they find the species of ants and termites to rip into their nests. Anteaters only spend a couple of minutes feeding on a nest though, and only a few thousand insects are removed at a time, and then the nest is abandoned to repairs. The anteaters circulate around their territories, feeding lightly here and there, never completely destroying any one nest, and therefore never eliminating any of their food source. As for the full size of a giant anteater, they can grow to be up to 8 feet long. These animals are way bigger than people expect them to be. If the anteater was standing on its hind legs, it would literally be taller than almost anyone on Earth. These animals live in Central America and South America. They spend all their time munching on ants and termites, and thankfully, they have not yet been placed on the endangered species list. There's still lots of giant anteaters running around. They can even gallop like a horse at up to 30 miles per hour. Number 6. The Nomura's jellyfish. Nomura's jellyfish is by far the most intimidating jellyfish in the world. It might not be the longest, but it's definitely one of the largest. Plus, its growth rate is simply outstanding. In less than 12 months, the Nomura's jellyfish will grow from being as small as a single grain of rice to larger than a human being with a weight of up to 450 pounds. The diameter of the jelly's bell also grows to about 6 feet. That means that in a single year, the Nomura jellyfish grows from a speck of dust to the size of an African lion. How does the jellyfish get so big? It feasts non-stop on plankton using its hundreds and hundreds of microscopic mouths. It also has tentacles poisonous enough to kill a full-grown human, and they are efficient at keeping away predators like leatherback turtles and swordfish. These jellyfish are so big that in 2009, a fishing trawler capsized just trying to haul one up in a net. Number 5. Hogzilla. One of the biggest and most unbelievable pigs in the world was Hogzilla. Hogzilla was a hybrid between a wild hog and an ordinary pig. After it was shot and killed by a hunter named Chris Griffin in Georgia, original reports had the hog being 12 feet long and weighing over 1,000 pounds. While some dispute the exact length and weight, it was still a monstrous pig. And to be quite honest, it's hard to believe that such a giant pig-hog hybrid exists. And yet, there are even more of them. There was another giant pig named Hog Kong who weighed over 1,100 pounds and was also shot near a farm in Georgia. Then there was Big Bill, a pig from Tennessee that allegedly weighed over 2,500 pounds and held the record for being the biggest pig in the world. Not exactly your cute little piggy from the Babe movies. Number 4. The giant footlocker rat. What's more disgusting than a giant hog? How about a giant rat that was found inside of a footlocker in the Bronx? New York typically has some of the biggest and meanest rats in the world. Well, the rats have apparently moved into shopping centres. The rat that was recently discovered by staff members at the footlocker was estimated to be over 3 feet in length, according to Business Insider. It's not exactly clear how the rat ended up in Foot Locker. Maybe it was trying on some sneakers. But in any case, it was still a pretty disgusting thing to find inside of a shoe store. Oddly enough, a similarly sized rat was found shortly before this incident in Brooklyn inside of a housing project and was killed with a pitchfork. If you were thinking about moving to New York, you better keep in mind that there are giant rats on the loose that look like Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Number 3. Enormous tiger shark. If you're the kind of person who's scared of great white sharks, just take a look at this enormous tiger shark that was recently captured by a commercial shark fishing boat off the coast of Australia. This monstrous shark was around 18 feet long. That's bigger than a car. It's also considerably larger than an average great white shark. Photos of this huge beast appeared online and immediately received outrage from the local community, with people comparing the death of the shark to the death of Cecile the lion. Of course, the shark fisherman hadn't killed the shark intentionally. The man who caught the shark told local authorities that he had actually been trying to catch a smaller 6-foot hammerhead shark when the tiger shark appeared out of nowhere and just ate it. It was a total accident. But believe it or not, this comes at a strange time in Australian history, as the Daily Mail reported that there was a vigilante group of surfers planning a secret culling of sharks in the area after a string of deadly attacks. And yeah, if there are 18 feet sharks swimming around, someone is bound to get attacked. Number 2. The Megastick. The biggest and one of the weirdest insects in the world is the Chan's Megastick. It's a type of stick insect with a long, slender body, which was first discovered by a Malaysian naturalist back in 1989. There is a specimen currently sitting in the London Natural History Museum that measures almost 2 feet in length with its front legs fully extended. This bizarre stick insect lives primarily in Indonesia, and almost nothing is known about its biology. And that's not a big surprise, considering Chan's Megastick literally looks like a stick. Even if you're looking for one, it's doubtful you'll ever see it way up in the canopy. It literally just looks like a twig and just blends in with all the other branches. Biologists do know that stick insects lay eggs individually and throw them out of trees, where they land on the forest floor and hatch later onto the soil. Nobody has any clue as to how many of these stick insects are left in the world, considering it's hard enough just to find a single specimen. Number 1. Mutant Pigs. Shocking footage has recently been released showing a genetically modified mutant pig in Cambodia, which a farmer managed to breed using what can only be described as mad science. The pigs seen in the footage are jacked, with muscles rippling across their entire bodies. And even though the farmer in Cambodia is proud of his muscled mutant pigs, the rest of the world is a little freaked out. And that's because these things don't look natural. They have dramatically increased muscle, making them look like buff pig hulks. Some people have accused the farmer of using steroids and growth hormones to beef up his pigs in the quickest and easiest way possible. The whole point of creating muscly pigs is to produce leaner meat at a higher price. According to local reports from the Mirror News, this also happened in 2015 when Korea and China tried to recreate mutant pigs using a single gene alteration. But in these experiments, only 13 out of 32 mutant pigs survived to become 8 months old, and only one of them was technically healthy. But keep in mind that this was 5 years ago. As technology and gene altering become more effective and easier to implement, we could see a whole new breed of giant, creepy animals, from pigs to chickens and maybe even house cats.
Number 10. Cow portholes. One of the strangest creatures created by science is a cow with a porthole. Yeah, you heard that right. Scientists have actually managed to install a porthole on the side of a cow. And while this bizarre creation is definitely being criticized by animal rights groups, especially in France, scientists are using them anyway. The portholes are essentially openings grafted onto the side of a particular cow that allows researchers to get direct access to the cow's stomach. A recent image of a cow with a porthole on its side was taken at a research facility in France at an experimental farm. The group who took the photograph is claiming animal cruelty, while the experts are actually saying cows that have portholes grafted onto them live longer lives. According to Jamie Newbold, the academic director at Scotland's Rural College, it's important to study the stomachs of cows if researchers are going to maximize food production and minimize the greenhouse gases created by these animals. By gaining direct access to a cow's stomach, it's now easy to take samples from inside. The operation is easy to do under anesthetic, and the cow will live far longer than any normal cow on the farm. And even though the cow will suffer pain because of the procedure, most of them will continue to live at least 15 years after the operation has been completed. Thanks to these portholes, experts have been able to improve the digestive health of millions of animals while reducing the use of antibiotics and lowering methane emissions linked to livestock, which, as you may know, is detrimental to the Earth's atmosphere. Number 9. Mutant Pigs. China has scientifically engineered their very own mutant pigs, and they may help the country from suffering a pork apocalypse. These pigs were created inside a fortress mega farm near Beijing. The hogs were experimentally fortified with a special gene to help them regulate heat and to keep them safe from brutal winters of northern China. According to Bloomberg, the experimental gene was used by researcher Jingguo Zhao and inserted directly into the DNA of dozens of experimental pigs. The result has been super pigs. What's really interesting is that the experiments aren't simply to make pigs taste better or grow faster, but to keep them alive longer. Researchers actually want to make healthier pigs. This comes as scientists all over the country are racing to develop better crops through genetic manipulation and to get rid of mutations inside of livestock, such as pigs, that can cause viruses and infections. What's even more fascinating is that Chinese scientists used CRISPR technology, a tool designed for editing genes in all kinds of different animals, to make at least 40 successful genetic mods to their pigs. Number 8. Human-monkey hybrid. Scientists claim to have created the first ever hybrid of a human and a monkey inside a secret laboratory in China. These researchers are looking to use animals to grow organs for humans, and they say that creating this hybrid abomination was a critical first step. These same scientists, according to a report from The Independent, are pledging to continue with their experiments using primates. They apparently injected human stem cells directly into a monkey embryo. Human stem cells are notorious for their ability to create any type of tissue. Theoretically, human stem cells inside of a monkey embryo could result in some kind of missing link type of monster. And depending on what exactly your views are, you might be pleased to know that the experiment was actually halted before the embryo was old enough to be born. That doesn't mean the embryo would have been a failure though. It definitely could have been born, at least according to the Spanish scientists who were holding the trial in China because of a ban on such pseudoscience in their home country. There were too many ethical concerns raised over the trial, specifically that the human stem cells could have migrated into the developed brain, creating something that scientists can barely even comprehend. Still, the results of this experiment were promising. Scientists are now convinced that if they combine human stem cells with DNA from pigs or rats or monkeys, they can grow organs to be used in human transplants. And if someone will let them, they could theoretically create a monkey or a pig hybrid with the mind of a human. Try to wrap your mind around that. Number 7. Dog clones. Scientists can clone animals. Some of the weirdest creatures created by science are actually as ordinary as your pet dog. For example, a California couple recently paid $50,000 to clone their dog Marley after he tragically passed away. They were not ready to say goodbye to their Labrador, so they decided to go ahead and initiate the cloning process. And according to the new owners of their clone dog, who they named Ziggy, both dogs are basically identical. Ziggy has an uncanny resemblance to Marley and even plays with the exact same toys and exhibits the exact same personality traits. It was as if Marley died and was reincarnated as a puppy. And these are not the only people who did this. Barbra Streisand did the exact same thing, and it's been going on in South Korea for years. In California, the cloning process was done through a company called Viagen Pets. The process was done by taking tissue from the dead animal and then creating new living cells from the tissue sample. These new living cells are then placed inside the nucleus of a new female dog's egg. The egg and cells join together, the embryo grows, a surrogate mother is used to produce a natural birth, and the result is a cloned dog that is basically an identical twin. This company has a 1-year waiting list of people eagerly anticipating their cloned pets. And while it costs a hefty sum of $50,000 right now, experts anticipate the price dropping significantly in the next 10 years. Would you clone your pet? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 6. Glowfish. Glowfish are aquarium pets that are the result of years of scientists studying bioluminescence. This process occurs naturally in nature when two chemicals inside of a living organism work together to produce a special light that gives any particular animal a strong advantage for survival. Hatchetfish use bioluminescence to trick predators, and vampire squids are able to shoot bioluminescent mucus to startle predators, kind of like shooting glowing bullets. Then you have glowing plankton, glowworms, and even coral. Now we also have glowfish, designed by scientists and housed inside thousands of aquariums all over the world. These fish were designed in Singapore. Scientists were hoping to use fluorescent fish to detect toxins in water to depollute waterways for local communities. The point of making fish fluorescent was for them to glow when in the presence of toxins. This would have let fish be natural detectors of polluted rivers and waterways. The first genetically engineered fluorescent aquarium fish was the starfire red danio, but there have since been at least 12 additional species added to the roster of glowing fish. They appear completely normal in regular lighting, but glow brilliantly when placed under a blue light. In a completely dark room and under a black light, they basically look like swimming stars. Number 5. Naked chickens. Scientists in Israel managed to breed a featherless chicken. Yes, naked chickens look positively terrifying, but there are many advantages for poultry farms. Specifically, poultry farms are very interested in naked chickens because it takes away the need to pluck them. This is a whole lot less work in an industry that wants to breed, kill, and sell chickens as quickly as possible. According to the scientists who bred this new species, the birds are not at all harmful to people's health. They also grow faster and have lower fat in their meat. Professor Avigdor Kahaner from the Agricultural Institute in Rehovot, where these chickens were created, says that the birds offer higher advantages as well because they don't require air conditioning in warmer conditions. The only issue would be cold countries because naked chickens can't adapt to cold climates. You wouldn't be able to breed bald chickens in places like Russia or Scandinavia. Scientists do admit that it might be difficult for featherless chickens to breed because without feathers, the mating ritual will become very painful for the lady chickens. The rooster could easily injure a hen with its beak or claws because the hen has no feathers to protect herself. As it is, roosters already have the nails of 2 of their fingers cut off because they routinely scratch and injure hens. Number 4. The ear mouse. The ear mouse, also known as the Vacanti mouse, was a freaky experiment in which scientists literally grew a human ear underneath the skin of a mouse. You might remember this from a certain South Park episode. Well, it happened in real life too. In the late 90s, this was the epitome of mad science. Charles Vacanti wanted to create human body parts inside his laboratory. He and his team were experimenting with something called biodegradable scaffolding. These were structures that could be grown inside of an animal's body in any particular shape, but would then dissolve, not harming the animal. Researchers created a biodegradable scaffolding in the form of a human ear. Then they injected it with cells of cartilage that they took from a cow. Cartilage is the rigid tissue that you have on your nose and ears. Next came the mouse. The mouse was given an anesthetic, a surgical incision was made along its back, and the ear-shaped scaffolding was placed under its skin. The cow cartilage cells were fed by the mouse's system, the scaffolding dissolved, and what remained was the shape of a human ear built out of cartilage underneath the mouse's skin. This type of procedure is not used anymore to create human body parts. However, it was the first step on a road to growing missing body parts, a road that is allowing scientists to grow replacement organs in laboratories today. Number 3. Landmine Plants. A genetically engineered plant was created by scientists to detect landmines hidden in the soil. As crazy as this sounds, it's 100% true. The plant works by changing color when close to an explosive, and this could help to prevent deaths and injuries because of unexploded mines left behind after a war. The plant is a modified tail crest that's sensitive to nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide is usually released by underground landmines. By genetically modifying the plants to shift from green to red when growing in the presence of nitrogen dioxide gases, it becomes an easy way to pinpoint where a landmine is hidden under the soil. But this isn't an overnight solution. It takes at least 3 to 5 weeks of growth for the plant to change from green to red. This is according to a scientific advisor from the University of Copenhagen who advised on the project. The plant has worked well in field tests, but has yet to be implemented in the real world. It's unclear how effective the methods will be, but still a pretty fascinating advancement in natural technology all the same. Number 2. Birth of the dinosaurs. In recent news, scientists have come forward with the assertion that they'll be able to create dinosaurs within the next decade. Yes, Jurassic Park could become a reality. This is coming from the acclaimed paleontologist Jack Horner, the very man whom Alan Grant from the Jurassic Park movie franchise was based on. Jack believes that we are a minimum of 5 years away from bringing dinosaurs to life. He thinks that researchers will soon use DNA from an ordinary chicken to bring back legends of the past. This is because birds are actually dinosaurs, with chickens being the closest relative of the T-Rex. The research team is already working on mutating chickens to make them appear more like their dinosaur ancestors. One of the craziest mutations that they've already successfully done is to change a chicken's beak into a snout. Jack has called this creation the Chickensaurus. And while we're still a far way off from birthing a 40-foot-long, 12-meter reptile monster and building a park full of velociraptors, the Chickensaurus is definitely a good first step. Number 1. Zombie dogs. Zombie dogs are real. They don't eat brains and they don't turn other dogs into zombies, but they do come back from the dead. One of the craziest things that scientists have been able to do with animals is literally bring them back from death. It's something being called reversible death, or what science fiction fans might recognize as suspended animation. Researchers have managed to take a dog, drain its blood, replace the blood with a saline solution, add some necessary glucose, then cool the solution to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. At this point, the dog's heart has stopped and so has its brain activity. However, the body is cool. The dog is in a state of suspended animation. It doesn't have a single drop of blood in its body and is, for all intents and purposes, deceased. The next part is to bring the animal back to life. This is done by replacing the saline solution with oxygenated blood, raising the temperature of the body, and then restarting the dog's heart. This is the reversible death. And yes, the process I just talked about has been done. Out of 14 dogs put through the process, every single one of them survived. 4 dogs showed sign of brain trauma, but the other 10 dogs seemed completely fine. Believe it or not, killing and resurrecting dogs is the first step toward putting human beings into states of suspended animation. Be ready to wake up in the year 3020.
Number 10. Big Philippine Croc. A small town in the Philippines claims to have caught the largest crocodile in the world. This giant reptile was caught in Bunawan back in the year of 2011 and measured 20 feet and 4 inches. It was properly measured by an Australian zoologist named Adam Britton. The town council then proudly announced to the whole world that they were in possession of the biggest crocodile in captivity. And even though they haven't been officially given the title by Guinness World Records, Adam Britton is a pretty trusted source. He's the same guy who measured Cassius, the current Australian saltwater crocodile listed as the largest croc in captivity. The crocodile was captured after a long 3-week hunt following 2 crocodile attacks on humans in the nearby marshlands. The local Filipinos believed that it was the same crocodile who had attacked the people and then, because apparently it was still hungry, then ate several farm animals. However, the giant beast is now more of a tourist attraction than a killing machine, drawing hundreds of visitors a day from all over the country. Plus, there were no human remains ever found inside of its guts, so the real killer croc may be still lurking in the marshes waiting for its next victim. Number 9. The Terror Crocodile. There was once a terrifying crocodile that had teeth the size of bananas. This crocodile was about the size of a bus or limousine, and it preyed on dinosaurs that dared get close enough to its watery territory. After new findings were analysed by professional paleontologists, They named this new ancient species Dinosaurs the Terror Crocodile. The research was published in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. The experts found that the Terror Crocodile could grow to be 33 feet long and was the largest carnivore at the time inside of its ecosystem between 75 and 82 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period. According to the lead paleontologist on the project, Adam Cossett, it was difficult for them to reconstruct the exact size of the crocodile because there were so few specimens found. But with technology and a handful of fossils, they finally figured it out. And if you want a comparison between a modern croc and a terror crocodile, the latter was about 3 times larger at roughly 7,200 pounds heavier. If still alive today, the prehistoric terror crocodile could very easily devour any of the animals roaming the earth now. I'm pretty glad the Terror Croc is extinct. What about you? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Number 8. Cassius. As of 2021, Cassius is still the largest crocodile living in captivity. He was given the title in 2011 and was 17 feet and 11.75 inches at the time he was measured. And while crocodiles can indeed grow to be up to 23 feet in length, Cassius is still probably not going to get that large. He's already 119 years old, which is right around the end of an average crocodile's lifespan. He is the largest crocodile that has ever been captured alive in the country of Australia, and was originally believed to be a man-eater, meaning that he feasted on the flesh of humans. He's currently owned by a man named George Craig, living in the Marineland Melanesia Wildlife Park near the Great Barrier Reef. So far as we know, Cassius is enjoying his life just fine at the wildlife park. Although, since he was originally known as a problem animal that attacked boats before his capture in 1984, he very well might miss the occasional human hunt. After all, there are no boats for him to flip over at the wildlife park, and no humans for him to feast on. Side note, did you know that crocodiles typically lived that long? I didn't. Number 7. Big River Croc. Villagers living on the Niger River in Africa found themselves under attack by a giant reptile and got so desperate that they apparently had to call in the army to help track down the beast, which turned out to be a 22-foot-long crocodile that weighed 2,500 pounds. However, even though there are photographs of this amazing beast circulating online, there are some doubts as just to how big it really was. After much research, it turned out that the giant crocodile was actually found in Zimbabwe after it had attacked and mutilated several adult cows. The rampaging crocodile had to be put down by animal control officers, who in their rush to dispose of the creature never had time to properly measure it. Guesses by professionals have placed the actual length of the Big River Croc only at about 16 feet, which is still pretty enormous. The croc was definitely real. It definitely killed some animals. It just wasn't a true 22-foot monster. Number 6. The Sarcosuchus. The Sarcosuchus imperator is longer, heavier, meaner, and infinitely more dangerous than any other crocodile that we're going to talk about today. So far as we know, it was the biggest crocodile species that ever lived on Earth. It measured up to 40 feet in length and weighed upwards of 17,500 pounds, making it nearly twice as heavy as the Terror Crocodile that we talked about earlier. Some people have dubbed this giant of the dinosaur world as the Super Croc. The crocodile family tree is pretty complex, but Sarcosuchus is in the group at the very beginning of their lineage. This is known as the Crocodiliforms, hence the Sarcosuchus holding the record title as the largest crocodiliform ever. Skeletal remains of this animal were excavated in Africa by a paleontologist from the United States named Paul Sereno. By studying the fossils closely, it was able to be determined that the Super Croc lived about 112 million years ago, making it more closely related to the Spinosaurus than the modern saltwater crocodile. Number 5. Lolong. Lolong was once the largest crocodile in captivity. Lolong took over the record from Cassius and held onto it for 2 years before his untimely death, at which point the title for biggest croc in captivity was handed back to Cassius. According to the report from the BBC, Lolong may have been responsible for the death of at least one person before being captured in September of 2011. Lolong measured 21 feet and weighed 2,370 pounds. It took 3 long weeks and dozens of people to hunt down and capture this monstrous croc, and when they were finally able to get him, they put him into a big cage and used his huge size to attract foreign tourists. Unfortunately, Lolong simply didn't like life in captivity, and he just couldn't make the proper adjustments to survive. He started to refuse food, which is super strange, and he got a little bit sick, his belly became ballooned, and then he died. According to the local veterinarian who was taking care of Lalong, the unseasonably cold weather could have had something to do with his untimely demise. To this day, Lalong is one of the biggest crocodiles that was ever seen in the Philippines. Number 4. A man-eater. A man in Florida was walking his dog along the canal when he found himself being attacked by a giant alligator. Of course, alligators are a fairly common sight to see in the Sunshine State, but this one really came out of nowhere. The 61-year-old man was just strolling along when he suddenly felt the alligator clamp its sharp teeth down on the back of his knee. The gator then tried to drag him into the water. The man was just mere seconds away from being taken into the canal and then being thrown into the legendary death roll by the angry alligator. Acting quickly and bravely, he poked his fingers into the alligator's eyeball, angering the beast enough that it opened its mouth and let him go. The alligator then swam away and the man was able to limp home, where he then went to the hospital and was treated for 12 puncture wounds to his leg. He had to receive about 60 stitches to his leg and 5 stitches to his left index finger, which had somehow been cut on the alligator's eye socket. The unfortunate victim in this incident told the Miami Herald that he had been around alligators his entire life, and this sort of thing had never happened to him before. As for the great big gator, chances are it's still swimming around the canal. Only now, it's probably sporting an eye patch. Number 3. The Australian Swamp King. Researchers have discovered yet another incredible ancient crocodile that they have named the Swamp King. It's apparently terrorized the giant marsupials that once lived down under in Australia. The crocodile was first discovered all the way back in the year 1980 when a fossil was dug out of the ground near the outback town of Chinchilla. However, it wasn't until recently that PhD student Yorgo Ristevski identified the extinct croc as part of his thesis. According to this PhD student, the Swamp King would have been a top predator during the Pliocene epoch, which lasted between 5.3 and 2.6 million years ago. But unlike the massive crocodiles that lived way before it, this one was pretty small. It would have preyed on giant kangaroos and extinct giant wombats, and it only would have been roughly 15 feet long, smaller than many of the biggest crocodiles alive today. Still, this prehistoric monster would have been quite the force to be reckoned with, as it still could have easily eaten you for lunch. As for just what happened to this crocodile, nobody is really sure. It may have gone extinct as a direct result of competition with some of the bigger and meaner crocodiles that still live in this area today. What do you think happened to the Swamp King? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2. Brutus the Giant. Brutus the Giant crocodile became famous a couple of years ago after being photographed eating a bull shark. Even for a big crocodile, going after a bull shark is a pretty brazen move. The photographs made international headlines and Brutus became a reptilian celebrity overnight. But believe it or not, Brutus was already one of the most famous crocodiles in all of Australia. He also made headlines in 2011 when someone snapped a picture of him literally jumping out of the water like a dolphin. This was pretty incredible, considering Brutus weighs at least a ton. He jumps extremely high for being such a long and heavy crocodile. He is known locally for his immense size and for the fact he's missing one of his legs, which locals believe Brutus lost during a fight with a shark. According to Harry Bowman from Adelaide River Cruises, every one of his guests wants to know about Brutus. Everyone who goes for a wild cruise in Australia is looking for this crocodile, and when they see him, they are shocked. He's so big and so mean that it doesn't even matter that he's only got 3 legs. He still fights sharks and he'd eat you in a heartbeat. Number 1. The Croc at the Care Facility. Speaking of giant crocodiles in Australia, local police were recently investigating a missing pensioner who they believed had been eaten by a wild crocodile. This came after finding the pensioner's clothes and her walking stick on a riverbank near to the residential home where she had been living at the time. Both police and wildlife officers working in Port Douglas were forced to set traps to try and capture the large and obviously dangerous crocodile. They think that the lady must have walked off by herself. The crocodile noticed she looked rather tasty, and so it dragged her screaming into the water. The wildlife director involved in the case, Michael Joyce, told local news that they were hunting for a fairly large animal, at least bigger than 9 or 10 feet, with a high level of boldness. Unfortunately, there was never any news as to whether this man-eating crocodile was ever found, but since we haven't heard of any more deaths happening around the residence, it's safe to say that it hasn't struck again. Thanks for watching. Which of these monster crocs is your favourite? Let me know about it in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button for more awesome videos like these. See you next time. Bye.